Good morning, everyone. Warm welcome to day 2 of Vision Summit 2016, the 11th edition of the flagship event of IESA. Now, before we move on to the proceedings of day 2, I thought it was a good time to at least shortly wrap up what we did on day 1. So I'm going to provide you some snippets for those that did not get to attend all the events. We began the day yesterday with the inaugural event where Nicholas Brathwaite, founder, partner of Riverwood Capital, spoke about his optimistic perspective of India. 10 to 15 years, several hardware companies will emerge in the country. But of course, the country needs to have a global perspective, not just India for India, but India for global. And that India should also invite global talent to be globally competitive. Because they bring global understanding and competitive ability and scalability potential. This was followed by Ashok Dhawan, MD Flex, who spoke about the ESDM ecosystem comprising of global and local startup and incubators and their need for them to collaborate between themselves. And the five primary sectors in his view that need attention are healthcare, agriculture, education, automotive, and energy. R.K. Mishra, who we know very well in Bangalore, founder director for Center for Smart Cities, spoke about ESDM being a priority for the government of India, and that smart cities in India, 20 smart cities have been very recently announced, I think as late as Jan 16th, just 3 weeks ago, is $1 trillion opportunity for various industries, and that the country has the talent and design to fulfill all the requirements of smart city. Now, the key is to convert unskilled labor to skilled labor. And there is a tremendous desire in the Indian government to not only become competitive marketplace, but a competitive producer as well for the global market. P.K. Das, STPI, said the STPI has very ambitious electronic export scheme which should be exploited by the industry. Ajay Kumar finally ended the inaugural session saying in the next 5 to 7 years, technology sector will be a $1 trillion opportunity. While we spoke about the ESDM sector to be 400 million, he added $350 billion of software and $250 billion of telecom and IoT. So now this together constitutes 25% of India's GDP, which is very significant for all of us here in this room. However, he made it contextually relevant that it is very important for the local language translation to occur because a large number of people are non-English speaking and most of them use smartphones. So any service that is delivered should enable everyone, even who do not know English, to engage, and that calls for innovation. Government, there was talk about government bureaucracy and how this is undeterministic, how long it takes to get clearances for various projects. And he said government is pushing for paperless, presence-less, and cashless transactions that should speed up the engagement with the bureaucracy. He also talked about recent initiatives to allow 100% FDI in medical electronics, 49% in defense, and on a case-by-case basis go beyond 49%. Later, during one of the keynotes, Dr. Mark Ray, Global CTO, Seagate Technologies, talked about data is being generated globally at unprecedented rates, and we would have, by 2020, 44 zettabytes of data, and almost 13.5 zettabytes need to be stored. I don't know how many zeros does that carry, I've lost count. But we have today capacity only for 6 zettabytes. So there's a huge need for data storage. All the 62% of the data is stored on hard disks, which is increasingly moving towards the cloud. He talked about Digital India initiative and how it's relevant for cloud computing. And there's a tremendous technical and scalable issue that Digital India needs to address to be successful. And high performance computing is growing at 10%, the highest ever. The server systems are growing at 8% and middleware applications are growing at 7%, which also pose a significant opportunity for the electronics and the IT industry. This was followed by Dr. Reddy, chairman of Scient, who's also the chairman of NASSCOM, who spoke about, who's got his hands in multiple aspects of ESDM. He recently acquired a company in Mysore. So he says by 2020, ESDM requirement will be 400 billion, which we are very well aware of. But he says the government needs to overcome some of the limitations by improving the infrastructure, have government-supported R&D, increased industry focus, and allow for prototyping and supporting agencies to thrive so that the possibility of Indian companies to compete globally is much better. This was finally followed by Dr. Michael Hennell, founder LDRA, who spoke about certification being very, very important in India. It's key for global market access. You cannot have local product for local market. So unless there are global certification agencies here and Indian companies focus on global certifications, it's difficult to do work in or participate in the global marketplace. And India should actively lead and have teams to define standards globally and not just follow the standards, but also drive the definition of standards. And that academia and industry and regulatory bodies have to work together. This was followed by track 1, panel discussion, automotive sector, where Chetan Mayani, Srini from Algo Systems, and Ashok Chandak, along with Amit Jain from Vistion, Ganesh Nambi from Delphi, went into a panel discussion that design in India is extremely critical for success of Make in India initiatives. Today, the automotive sector, especially electronics and software, is primarily fulfilled by global tier 1s, and that there is a huge opportunity. Samir Patel, Srinivas Mandavali from Imagination Technologies, of course, Samir Patel from Sankalp, Graham Bett from ARM, also spoke during the day yesterday. We had 2 very interesting panel discussions, and I was part of one, which is the Electropreneur Park. We had a significant participation from startups and very animated discussions, challenges about what does it take to get an incubator to work. We have had various incubators in the past, and they have had mixed successes. So we try to position Electropreneur Park as a concept that would overcome some of the limitations that have been experienced in the past. But of course, the startups and the entrepreneurs in the startups had their own perspectives about what is required, and that of course provides very good inputs for us to develop the concept of Electropreneur Park further. And of course, the second panel discussion was propelling in India manufacturing, skilling and entrepreneurship. We had Srinivas Satya from Applied Materials, Jayesh Rajan from IES, Secretary to the Government, IT, E&C Department, Government of Telangana. And this is what we observed this year, that the state government participation is very extensive. In fact, this morning we had a breakfast session with the state of Haryana. And of course, we had the Government of Odisha also actively participating through PK Jaina, IAS Principal Secretary, IT and EC Department, Government of Odisha, who highlighted what are the various initiatives that the state governments are taking, Odisha and Telangana, and of course Haryana, to invite ESDM industry into the state. This was followed by a panel discussion that the states are indeed responding to the industry needs, and they realize that startups need support from even the state governments, and providing a level playing field will not support startups, but we have to provide a competitive field, an advantage to the startups so that they can compete with the larger and more established companies. So that's on day 1, a short overview. Now, before we proceed to the day 2 activities, I would like to take this opportunity to announce that Mr. Ram Prakash GB, who is the CMD of Enix from Chennai, has recently become our member, and he has volunteered to start the Chennai chapter of IESA. So I invite Ram Prakash on the stage so that you can see him, and those of you who are from Chennai or have as contacts in Chennai can use him as a reference to further the ESDM cause in the country. Today we have strong presence in Delhi. We have moderate presence in Hyderabad, and I'll come to that part later. But Chennai is new. Chennai has ESDM ecosystem, but we have not had a strong presence so far. And I'm glad that we have volunteers like Ram Prakash who take this initiative to start a new chapter, and I would like to use this opportunity also to encourage entrepreneurs, startup, and also people from the corporate side. In your own area where you notice that there is an increased presence and an association required, an association presence required, please take up the initiative, start a chapter. Because this cannot be just an association, it has to be a movement. And movement does not occur through a central headquarters based in Delhi or Bangalore. Each one of you have your own set of challenges in your region and opportunities. Please bring that up. We will coordinate it centrally from Bangalore or Delhi, but definitely each small site, even if you are 5 or 10 of you in a community, in a small village or small town, please start a chapter and further your cause and make your cause known centrally. I think this is the only way we can drive and scale up the ESDM opportunity in this country. It cannot happen through an association of just 250 members located mostly in Bangalore, Delhi or Hyderabad. So thank you, Ram Prakash. If you would like to say a few words.